right. Hi, folks. I'm Greg, a conversation design principal at Salesforce. If you didn't hear me and me and Stefan chatting about conversation and all things conversation design over the last 10 minutes or so, I'm excited to take you through some of the best practices that we have at Salesforce around conversation design for customer service use cases. Like I mentioned, I lead conversation design as a practice at Salesforce. I founded the practice about this time last year. But prior to that, I was working as a user experience researcher where I sort of moonlighted as a conversation designer until the practice started to really take shape. And a lot of what I'm going to show you today is what I also share with our customers who build on our Einstein Bot Builder product, particularly for customer service use cases. Before I begin, please keep in mind that anything that I show in this presentation may never see release. So, keep all your purchasing decisions about Salesforce based on the product as it exists in the market today. So for those of you, again, who don't know me, I am just a huge nerd. And as a nerd, I very much have a fandom for things like cartoons and movies and all these different kinds of things. And one of my favorite cartoons out there is Dragon Ball Z. If you've never heard of it, it's essentially a Oops. Can folks still see my screen? I hope you're seeing the Dragon Balls. Essentially, if you've never seen it before, it's this, very elaborate fighting cartoon where people scream and beat each other up. But as a child, it was something that I found, and still do as an adult, find incredibly entertaining. As an adult, I've taken my fandom for Dragon Ball Z into the digital world, whereby I was using this chat app where they had these really ornate stickers that have to do with Dragon Ball that you can send in chat and it takes over the whole screen. Well, naturally, I had to figure out how to get these stickers because I want to show off my fandom and sort of show my reactions to things in conversation using Dragon Ball references. So I didn't know quite how to find these stickers at the time, but the app that I was using did have a chatbot. So I decided, let's fire up the bot and figure out how to send these stickers. So I asked the bot, where are the Dragon Ball sticker packs? And the bot says, hey, friend, have you checked out this week's new sticker packs? We're super excited to share them with you. Check out the free stickers. All right, not exactly the answer I was looking for. So I repeat myself, because maybe it didn't get it the first time. I want the Dragon Ball sticker packs. Hopefully this clears it up. No, not so much. Hey, friend, have you checked out this week's new sticker packs? Okay, and now at this point, I'm getting a little frustrated. So I respond with, and then again, it just keeps saying, hey, friend, have you checked out this week's new sticker packs? So not a great experience, and particularly as someone who was looking for help as a customer. This is a customer service use case. They didn't necessarily, do their job. The bot's inability to service my intent or complete an action on my behalf essentially dampens my trust in the product and thereby my trust in the brand of the business that deployed this chatbot. And really that's what it fundamentally comes down to is your bot is an extension of your business. It's a representation of your brand, and it's all about building trust with your customers and trust with your users. At Salesforce, trust is our #1 value. Without that trust, customers aren't going to come back. They're not going to want to engage. We want to encourage that. And one way to build trust is to essentially craft that clarity and be transparent with the customer in terms of what the bot can do and what it cannot. There was a survey that was conducted in the US by Digitas LBI that found that 70% of its participants would not use a company's bot again after a bad experience. In that same survey, 60% found bots robotic and artificial in their responses. Now, again, as a researcher, I have to concede, causation and, correlation are not the same thing. But I do think it's worth noting that within the same survey, we found these similar data points. The artificial and robotic nature, certainly I think from a linguistic standpoint, has an impact on the extent to which a user can feel comfortable with and thereby trust a chatbot's ability to perform. Our goal from an experience perspective is to support bot conversations, create support bot conversations that need to be natural and trustworthy. Again, we want to develop this relationship with the user. We have the opportunity through conversation by taking turns with the user to deepen a relationship between the business and the customer. Now, very luckily, there's lots of research from the field of linguistics that helps us understand what does a conversation canonically look like? What makes a conversation helpful or natural? And we draw very heavily at Salesforce on this research to inform our approach for conversation design. So the structure that I'm showing you here is actually the canonical structure of a customer service conversation. It was something that was outlined by researchers Szymanski and Moore in 2018, where the conversation starts with some kind of opening, and then there's the body, whereby there's the customer request and the agent response, and that can take a multitude of turns. And then by the time resolution is met, you move to the closing. And so by thinking about that structure, it helps us think through, okay, how are we going to plan out the way that this conversation is going to materialize for the user? Where can it go? What are the turns it's going to take? And how are we guiding the user toward resolution? So in order to do this, we've essentially created what I like to call the top 10. The top 10 steps to build a natural, helpful bot dialogue for customer support. And we're going to dive right in. I'm going to show you how you can apply these right away using the Einstein bot builder. The first of which is the bot introduces itself as the bot. So again, you're not going to create trust with your customer if you're lying to them. The customer needs to know they're talking to a chatbot. They're talking to a machine, not a human. So be upfront. We've included this in Salesforce's MSA for customers that they have to declare that the bot is indeed a machine to their customers, so as to not dupe them into thinking they're talking to a human when they're not. This goes a long way in terms of building customer trust. The bot should also state what it can do. So, in the beginning, when I was chatting with that, that sticker bot or whatever, I just, essentially hopped in with an open-ended question. It didn't even greet me first to give me an idea about what kinds of things it can do. And some of our customers have done their own research and found that unless you provide some sort of guidance to the user in the beginning about what the bot can do, they're going to feel lost. There's going to be some anxiety that the customer feels. And so part of the way that you can mitigate this is by introducing a main menu that says, here's some things that I can help you with. It doesn't necessarily need to be exhaustive. In fact, we recommend that you go over no more than about 4 menu items at once, and that you start each menu item with a verb, so that way it's extremely clear, what is the bot going to do? What is the action that the bot will help your customer complete by interacting? Or if you're not going to, let's say you're super fancy and you've got your NLP, completely trained and your intents are balanced and they're ready to go. Okay, then yes, you can keep it open-ended, but you want to give them, again, some kind of sample. I can help you change your flight, something to guide the user. The bot should also understand various ways of phrasing things. So linguistically speaking, we don't ever say the same thing in the same way in various conversations all the time. So you could greet someone with hello, you could say hi, you could say heya, you could say howdy. All of these are different ways of opening up or greeting someone in a conversation. The bot needs to understand that there is natural variation in conversation, whether that's from different varieties of English or different, cultures, for example. And so you wouldn't want the bot to be able to understand hi and hello, but if the user said howdy or heya to the bot, it said, I'm sorry, I can't understand. So make sure that you're really thorough in training your intents in the bot. So how do we do this in the bot builder? Well, this is the Einstein bot builder here. What we're looking at is the inside of a pizza bot that we've created for the demo. On the left-hand side, you'll see that there's the dialogues that are listed out one by one. And that's where you can go to edit every one of the dialogues that are in your bot. In the middle, we have the composer where you can actually create the messages that your bot will send to the user. So here we have your pizza ordering bot. And then sorry, I had my directions messed up, but on the far right, you have the preview where you can see what the bot looks like for your customer. If you click on dialogue intent, that's where you can go and train the intent to understand various ways of phrasing things, various ways that your customer might phrase things. In the main menu, that's where you can give the customer some kind of idea about what the bot can do. Step number 4, the bot takes turns with the user. So again, conversation is fundamentally about turn taking. If only one person is talking in the conversation, it's not a conversation. It's more of a monologue or a talk like I'm giving to you now. There has to be a fundamental exchange of language between two or more participants in order for it to constitute conversation. The bot needs to be able to, again, do this. If the bot, essentially takes, all the turns and the customer can't provide any responses, it's essentially no different than this sort of automated line-by-line help page. You don't want that. You also want to leave time for the user to read what the bot has said. So if we're looking at the two examples here on the right, I got my directions right this time. The example on the top is the bad example, where there's no pause, there's no cadence between each of the messages that the bot is sending to the user. It sounds like 50 messages all at once, and each one is like a paragraph long, and the user then has to scroll up in order to see what the bot has said. If you've got a lot of content, you want to create, again, actually, even if you don't have a lot of content, again, conversation comes back to turn taking. There's a natural pace, a natural cadence to the conversation. You want to create that cadence by giving the bot a slight delay between messages, so that way it doesn't come across as artificial. Something that's at least as long as 1 second. And that might sound a little long to you, but it's something that we found in research as very natural in chat, and actually more efficient than what a human would provide if a human were typing. The way that we do this in the Einstein bot builder looks something like this. So let's say we're going to add another message. We're going to ask a question. We click on the plus button, ask how many pizzas would you like to order? We are going to save that to the number entity. We're going to select the number entity and save it to the pizzas recurring variable. And then we'll add some choices. So maybe you want 1 pizza, 2 pizzas, 3 pizzas, 4 if you really like pizza. Great. All right. Once this is done, we can add another question. All right. So now that we've determined how many pizzas you want, how often do you want to reorder pizza? We are going to select the text entity and then save it to the variable called Reorder Cadence. And then this is where you can add, again, additional choices. Maybe you want it once a week. Maybe you want pizzas twice a week. And then another message where we're going to confirm this order for the user. We're going to use what we call in Salesforce merge syntax, whereby we pull the variable from the previous utterance and pipe it into this new utterance to confirm for the user. I will reorder pizzas recurring, pizzas. And the reason why we put pizzas after that is because that's only going to pull a number variable. And then we're going to put in reorder cadence, which is a text variable. Thanks for your order. We're going to save this, activate the bot, and then click preview. So when you submit and click chat with an expert, this is going to be a simulation of whatever your customers will see if they're chatting with your bot as it exists. How may I help you? We have the menu with examples of what the bot can do. Recurring order. How many pizzas would you like? I want 4 pizzas. I really like pizza. How often would you like to reorder? Twice a week. It's lunchtime here in California, so I want a lot of pizza right now. We've pulled the variable, 4 pizzas twice a week. Thanks for your order. And if you notice, again, there's that pace, there's that cadence between messages in the bot. The way that we set that up looks like this. So if we go to the overview of the bot, which is essentially, it comes down from this dropdown up here, it will allow you to be able to view the homepage for the bot. And if you go under settings, it's got best delay time for bot response delay. We allow you to customize your bot response delay, that sort of ellipsis between messages, up to 3 seconds. We don't want to go over that because we want to maintain efficiency. But if you set the best delay time, it gets set at 1.2 seconds, which we determined through research. Step number 6, the bot interprets multiple pieces of information at once. So when we talk in conversation, we don't necessarily talk in one idea per sentence or one idea per utterance. We have compound sentences or utterances with multiple ideas or multiple entities, for example, per sentence. So what we're seeing here is Astro is saying, I'm Astro and I live in San Francisco. Astro did not say, I'm Astro, I live in San Francisco. We want to adhere and be flexible to the variation that occurs in conversation. And in order to do that, we leverage named entity recognition in order to pull those entities out of one single utterance. So if, let's say, for example, you're done setting up this bot, we've asked, again, the user, how many pizzas do you want and how often do you want to reorder them? We provided menu items here, but let's say that the customer doesn't want to use the menu items. What if the customer just types, I want to set up a recurring order, and I want to set that order for 4 pizzas twice a week? You don't even have to do anything extra. The bot will then skip the customer all the way to the part of the conversation where it confirms, because it's going to be able to check that those entities have indeed been filled through that single utterance. This is how we scale to the variation in conversation. Step number 7, the bot apologizes when it can't do something. So apologies are a natural part, a naturally and frequently occurring part of a customer service conversation. Oftentimes, I think we take it for granted. I was at a restaurant once a couple years ago where I found something unsavory in my food. I let the waiting staff know. They seemed rather upset and visibly upset on my behalf over it, and then they refunded my food. But after I was done, I thought, why do I feel like I'm missing something here? Like there's something there that was left to be desired. And I thought, they never said sorry. They never expressed their regret beyond maybe a grunt or a frown of disapproval. While I realize that maybe you might be in a situation whereby your legal team or your sort of customer service management team or an executive is telling you that the bot and your agents, for example, are not allowed to apologize to the customer or take on that responsibility, it is important to think through how you can communicate that sense of regret, because that's something that customers are looking for. So let's say, for example, you're a customer and you can say sorry verbatim to the customer, where the bot can say, you're a company where you can say sorry verbatim to the user. Check out scenarios in which you would apologize to the user. Create maybe an apologies dialogue. If you cannot say the word sorry, there's other forms of language you can use to express that regret, like unfortunately, or using the discourse marker well, it looks like we don't have that in stock, or something like that. That essentially will soften the blow of the disappointing information and also expresses that the bot, as a representative of the company, understands that this is not necessarily a desirable situation. It's regrettable. The bot should also create a path for follow-ups. So we have a screenshot here from our Dreamforce bot. Back when we had, before the pandemic, we had Dreamforce in person in San Francisco, which is Salesforce's annual conference. We had a bot that would allow the user to essentially continue moving forward in their service journey. If there's no agents available, for example, if the user wants to transfer from the bot to an agent, then we provide them with the essentially the resources to email, find a store, give a call, continue the conversation. It's all about making sure that the customer can continue their conversation if they wish. How do we do this? Well, let's say that the bot doesn't understand what the user is saying, which can happen quite frequently no matter how well you've trained your bot. Native to the bot builder, we have a dialog called confused, whereby the bot will essentially say, unfortunately, I don't understand that. Would you like me to connect you to an agent? And then it will route to the transfer to agent dialog, which also comes native to Einstein Bot Builder. And you can transfer. If no one's available, then we at least provide a way forward here. Step number 9, the bot gives and acknowledges gratitude. So thanking someone, saying you're welcome, that's a natural part of conversation. Make sure to include it. You don't want the customer to say thank you and then have the bot say, I don't understand. And then lastly, the bot needs to close the conversation. So every conversation has to end in some way. Make sure that you acknowledge that. Sometimes that can be a thank you. Sometimes that's goodbye. The way that we do that in the bot builder is by creating a dialogue called You're Welcome. You can say something like You're very welcome, and then train the intent to understand when the customer is essentially saying thank you to the bot. It's very important that the bot can respond to thank you in an acceptable and expected way. And here are all the different ways you can say thank you. And then end chat is essentially how we close the conversation. So once everything is complete, you can route the conversation design to end chat, and then it will say, great, thanks for your service, or thanks for your interaction today. And you can also train the intent so that way, if at any point the customer decides, okay, I'm done with you, and they say ciao or bye now, that this conversation will end. And there you have it. With these 10 steps, you've achieved a natural, trustworthy chatbot, essentially, leveraging all of this rich research in linguistics, but staying focused on the interaction at hand to build trust with your users. Here are the 10 steps if you want to take a look again. This talk and slides will also be made available after today. And thank you very much for your time.
Very good, Greg. It's a great presentation.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So we'll open it up. I think we've got about 8 minutes for questions. And I see a lot of people actually talking about your presentation. Are you going to make it available to us, and then we can also share it with everybody?
Yes, absolutely. All the content.
Perfect. Yeah, so for everyone that's here, we record these automatically, and then when the speakers give us their presentations, we include that in the follow-up email that we share with you guys. So you could give Greg and the other speakers your undivided attention. So you guys can start asking questions in the stage area, in the chat, or in the QA box. We'll get to the most interesting questions. So I guess I'll ask you my first question. What part of the journey would you say is, I guess, the most pivotal?
Oh, that is such, okay, starting off with the hard questions.
I'm sorry.
The part of the journey that's the most pivotal, for me, honestly, the thing that I see the most as sort of the ultimate question is actually at the very beginning. So I think a lot, we were talking about how lots of the organizations are adopting chatbots now. And I think one question that I often end up asking customers is, I'm like, but why a chatbot? Like, what is this actually going to get you? And so I think fundamentally in the beginning, the most important part of the journey is asking whether or not turn-taking, the foundational structure of conversational interaction, is the right method of interaction for getting your customers what you need. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you need to just use a form. Like, you don't need to ask your customer 10 questions turn by turn in chat.
What's your last name?
Yes. Like, generally the way that we recommend it is like, all right, we'll give you up to a total of 4 questions. If you're asking 4 questions in a row, that means at least 8 turns of conversation where you're completing that, and then move on. But as soon as you move to 5 turns of conversation, now you're looking at 10 turns of conversation of trying to get this info from a user. When if you use a form, you could probably get it in about 4 or 5 clicks. So it's really about thinking, is turn taking the right method for this?
Yeah. Even like when you meet someone for the first time, the last thing we have an expression, don't ask 20 questions.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, or even like, for example, let's say going into the doctor's office, at least here in the United States. I don't know how it is necessarily in other countries, but when you go into the doctor's office here in the US, they don't sit down and interview you about all of your past medical records and your insurance and whatever. They hand you a form, you fill it out, and then you hand it back to them. Because if they asked you all of that information, it would take hours. So again, it's about thinking, okay, we're going to leverage conversation so we can go deep and we can go broad. It's not necessarily a means of just collecting information. That can be done in other better formats, more efficient formats, rather.
So I have a question from Quan. Quan wants to know, you mentioned the optimal response time being to 1.2 seconds.
Yes.
How did you guys get there, and what research do you have that you might be able to share?
So we did this through qualitative, essentially participant observation. A colleague of mine, Molly Mahar, and I, Molly Mahar is our lead designer for Einstein Bot Builder. We actually went to Manila and sat in a major hub of chat customer service agents and observe them for, I don't know, I want to say like 3 or 4 days. And what I did as a linguist, one of the things that I'm trying to do and observe in the field is pay attention to things like pace and cadence. And so one of the things that I was absolutely looking for is, we know in voice, in sort of voice-based conversation, that 1 second is the threshold for American English before the pause starts to make things seem awkward. And the researcher who found that out, Anita Pomerantz, discovered in 1984-85 that the reason why that is because a long pause tends to predict that something negative is coming in the conversation. It takes more time cognitively to come up with a negative answer rather than keeping the conversation going. But that's for voice. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the same for text. And so we had to go and observe in order to find that out. And as I was observing chat agents, what I saw was the shortest response time from a human agent to a customer took 4 seconds. The longest took potentially minutes because they have to go fetch the article, they have to type it out, etc. And so I thought, if we're going to try and hit that sweet spot of efficiency without being robotic, then it absolutely should not be 0 seconds, but we shouldn't go over 4 seconds. And so that's why you sort of see that boundary there in the Einstein bot builder, where you can go between 1 and 3 seconds to set the bot response delay. And then we settled on 1.2 for the default.
Got it. And so here's a question from Corey. He says, what about bot persona?
Yeah.
How do you balance whether to design a serious bot versus a friendly, playful one, for example? Like, where's the balance between personality and delivering results?
I think there's two sort of facets to that question. The first of which is it on brand? Like, does it actually match the brand of your company and how your company essentially markets itself out in the world? Because, like Salesforce, for example, is quite playful. If you look at our Twitter feed, you'll see emojis and all those fun things as well. So if we just put out this, Salesforce chatbot that everyone was going to use, and it was just dry with a period after every sentence and no emojis and no exclamation points, it would seem slightly off-brand. There are other brands out there for whom putting in emojis and exclamation points and all of those things are totally off-brand. So I think that's the first thing to think of. The second thing to think of is to think about, where is your customer in the conversational journey? So for example, in the intro template bot, in the Einstein bot builder, if you take a look at those conversation designs, you'll see that when the customer wants to connect with sales or learn more about a product, we say great with an exclamation point, because we want to encourage and celebrate the fact that they want to know more and dig deeper. When they say they want to report an issue, we don't say great with an exclamation point, because we know that that's not necessarily, it's a regrettable situation, in which case that we say, all right, I can get that taken care of for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to think about it. Like, if you're talking to Bank of America's Erica, you don't want her to tell you she has great news, there's fraud on your account,
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to or imagine if the customer reported the fraud. You're like, hey, I've got fraud on my account. And Erica was like, awesome.
Right.
No, not so great.
Yeah, not so great. So, Greg, thanks so much for being a part of it. I wish we can go on.
Pleasure.
We have Yi that's coming up next.
Okay,
there's a few more questions in the stage chat in the Q&A. Maybe you can follow up. I think some people want to know what the website is.
Sure.
So you can share that as well with them and some tool tips. And without further ado, I'll bring Yi on. And Greg, thank you so much.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon.